Welcome to our interview.
Hello,
Hello.
My name is Gabrielle,
my name's Mauricio.
My name is DJ.
Lily, and we're interviewing you for a school project. We'll go ahead and get to questions. I'll do mine first, since mine are a little lengthy. My first question for you is, what do you find the most exciting and the most challenging aspect working with students interested in CSI and forensics investigation at the school?
Okay. What do I find most challenging? Let me give a little background first. And this is like why I asked earlier. I don't really work with kids who do CSI. I'm a criminologist. I'm like kind of a dirtbag philosopher. I do a lot of theory and a lot of philosophy and things like that. And so, as far as like working, I have a lot of kids who are interested in that. It's not my area by any means. And so I could tell you from my perspective, I like working with kids from CSI because a lot of times they're very attention detailed. They're obviously interested in the subject and things like that. I think that what I find also interesting is I do get a lot of kids who are very black and white, who are very kind of like thinking ones and zeros, right and wrong, this and that. And I kind of don't really think in ones and zeros, and I don't really think in black and white. And so I like to kind of expound a lot of people. I like to kind of help them kind of think of things differently. Because like I said, if you ever have me in class, I'll go through this whole spiel again, so you'll get to hear it again. But basically, a lot of times people who are interested in forensics, they're interested in kind of like where a crime happens here, like in this one spot. I'm really interested in everything that happened before and everything that happened after. I'm also interested in why we're interested in like some people's crimes, not other people's crimes. And I'm interested in like why certain people get like better investigations or less investigations, things like that. And so I'm kind of interested in that. Thinking about CSI, I have a former student who's a friend now. She's like a medical legal death investigator for Oklahoma, and she's fascinating. She goes out on the scenes to unattended deaths and things like that. And I love talking to Kaylin because it's very interesting to hear someone who is very, I don't want to use the word facts, but I will say again that attention to detail and that ability to kind of find ultimate answers. I do find that interesting. As far as challenging with CSI students, I would say just students in general. I don't know, I'm getting older. It's like when I started teaching, I was like cool uncle, and now I'm straight dad. And so I find generation gaps. I find a lot of kids are they've kind of lost interest in process. They want answers, and I don't know what the answers are. And I think that goes back to CSI kids. You guys are very interested in answers and finality and things like that, and I don't really think in finalities. So that was a long rambling answer.
What are some challenges students go through while studying here?
Challenging challenges that they go through at UCO.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I think there's always just kind of a big adjustment. Are you guys like all 18 years old now? Are y'all like coming in? You're kind of,
Yep.
were y'all in high school last year?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
sir.
Okay. I think that there's such a difference, different high school experiences and exposures. And I think that a lot of times kids come in and we expect you all to, like I taught a class. Have y'all heard of, are any of y'all taking Blueprint in the fall or anything? Have y'all heard of this? Like I taught Blueprint for the first time last year. And I guess there's just when kids come in, I didn't realize just different levels they're at when it comes to like their writing or their um just kind of their, I don't want to use the word critical thinking because everyone throws these words around, and critical thinking is one of them that almost doesn't have meaning anymore. But I would say that there's a naivety for students that come in now because you all, and I say you all, I mean like children, and like I have two young children, and I see it in them too. They're so used to getting what they want immediately, and so anytime that there's a struggle, a lot of times, and again I see this with my children. Anytime there's a struggle to understand a concept, they're like, next, I don't want to do that. That part of my brain hasn't been developed. That's uncomfortable. That makes my head hurt. And they just kind of go on to the next thing because it's like, well, who gives a shit? I can just ask Chat GPT what to do about it, and Chat will tell me what to do. And I think that's like a big thing is there's a loss of the mental struggle.
What would you recommend for incoming freshman students interested in criminology or forensic science?
Recommend as far as what?
Like any type of advice you have to offer.
Be open-minded. Try to, I'm not going to tell you to listen to everyone who has a different opinion than you, but I would say, whenever if someone says something you don't agree with, don't always argue. Just ask them why. Why do you think that? Why do you feel that? Because a lot of times they'll kind of talk themselves in circles. And a lot of times you take them to the end conclusion of their belief or the end conclusion of their thought. And a lot of times, you kind of help people get there. And so I would say ask why a lot. Why? I would say, be ready to challenge yourself, be ready to be uncomfortable, be ready to challenge your own beliefs. I think that's really important. Like I said, I teach criminology, I teach ethics, I teach critical issues, I teach a lot of things that, people that make people uncomfortable, especially, talking about whether it's race, class, gender, whatever, all the things people love talking about. But there are different experiences for people who encounter the criminal legal system. And specifically, I would, I teach from kind of a perspective that the criminal legal system is tasked with dealing with the fallout of larger kind of like socio-historical economic issues. And so,
Do you ever feel like the work that you do can be too much at times?
do I feel like the work I do?
Mm-hmm.
No, no, I come from a family of teachers, and like my family like public educators. And so, no, I think like high school teachers and middle school teachers, I think that they work a lot harder than we do. And so, no, I don't. I think that you can get kind of wrapped up in your own stuff if you don't have other things going on. You got to be careful, getting wrapped up in your own research. I work a lot with like Homeless Alliance and Diversion Hub. I work a lot with people who don't have houses, who are really traumatized, who are going through a really difficult time. And so being exposed to that can be a lot. But no, I don't think our work's too much.
I guess my take over.
I have two questions.
Okay.
My first question is, what barriers should I anticipate as a new individual joining forensic science and or CSI investigation?
Dude, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a CSI guy. How's your let's see this. How are you with like bodily fluids and things like that? You cool with that?
A little. I get a little uncomfortable.
Okay, well, you're going to be a lot uncomfortable because, like I said, I don't know a lot about those things. But kind of, I've never seen a dead body. That would freak me out. So there's things like that. So I think there's when you talk about CSI and forensics investigations and things like that, I think there's a practical element that a lot of kids aren't ready for because they've seen they've seen the media and things like that. But actually, like, till you've actually like smelled a dead body or till you've like, walked into a room where you can like taste the blood and things like that. I would guess that's one thing to start to get, kind of get ready with. And two is just, I assume course load. There's just different expectations, and there's different expectations across professors, just like there's different expectations across your teachers at your high school, I assume. Well, there's different expectations across professors too. And so that's just kind of something you have to adapt to and get used to and get ready for.
And do you think like collaborating would play a major part in that?
Collaborating with your fellow students or with
Yes,
your
or with your professors.
well, I think, professors, anytime you can collaborate or learn from your professors, I've taken on, I've had several research assistants, I've had several McNair scholars, I have two McNair scholars, and I have, a research assistant right now. And so I think that if you are interested in learning, and like I said, you guys are very, very young and you don't really know what research is and things like, and you shouldn't. It's not a problem by any means. But if you're interested in learning those things, I think it's huge if and when you can collaborate with someone who knows more. I'm always trying to work with people better than me because, again, I love working with people smarter than me and more capable than me. I have a colleague in my department named Rashi Shukla, who I love working with because she is much smarter and better than me. And so, yeah, I think anytime you can collaborate is huge and really a great deal.
That's it for me.
I just realized y'all are at the library. I see the hyena behind you. Okay.
Couple questions. What's it like working as a criminology teacher or professor?
It's cool. I get to, I kind of chose this, and so it's nice being a professor. I get to, pick what I teach. I get to pick how I teach it. I find, like I said, I find the topic really interesting. I find it interesting to think about. When we talk about quote unquote criminology, I think we talk about like everyone's always fascinated in like why people commit crime, which is interesting. Like I said, I was a therapist with violent sexual offenders for a few years before I went to academia, and so like I'm very attuned to like one-on-one rational choice, why these people why people do what they do, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think it's fascinating to kind of understand and explain why people do what they do, but also I think it's really interesting and important to kind of consider, well, why is certain people's behavior more likely to be criminalized? Why is the drug use of some people criminalized and the drug use of other people, like boys will be boys? Why is it the most dangerous drug in the world is completely legal once you turn 21 years old? Things like that. I think it's interesting to talk about how is it that we create rules, we create laws, we create social control. And so I get to do that, during the summertime I go crazy because I have two young children and I watch them from 7:30 until 5:30 every day. But like during the school year, I sit around and think about these things and talk to people and kind of research what I like. So yeah.
And then just for like in the area, what classes did you take that led to your career as of right now?
What classes? I took classes like called I took a lot of criminological theory. I took a lot of theory, so like I can kind of I can explain why people how people have explained criminal behavior from a long time ago. Like there was demons in our bellies, up to the point now I can tell you about like the different parts of our brain that fire and how they develop and why it's important that we have proper nutrition. I take a lot of what's called human nature courses. I took a lot of those. That's basically what we call evolutionary criminology. If you ever heard of evolutionary psychology, basically how our behavior today was shaped by evolution, millions of years ago. I took a lot of research methods. Those are probably the big ones were my theory and my methods courses about how is it that we create knowledge? How is it that we come to know things? How is it we quote unquote prove things? And then an academic, most of us you'll take a lot of stats courses. So I can do stats. I do a lot of statistics too. I can and I do, not as much as some.
All right. And then last question, what are some myths about your job?
What are some myths? I would say some myths about our job is that first, I think some myths are that we know everything. We don't. I would say some other, and so there are some myths that, we're unapproachable, that we're overly, pompous, things like that. I would say that some myths are that all of us are, once we get, we don't really work that hard, I would say that, like, we just like that we know everything and that we don't really work too hard, that we just kind of kick back and, judge everyone. And that's just me maybe being a little personal. I don't know if y'all keep up with the news. But that's just me being a little, but I would say that I think that like people think that we're smarter than we are. But yeah, let me see what else. Yeah, there's just kind of like a stereotype of, everyone being stodgy and thinking that that there's an error to us and that we think that we're smarter, more informed. Some of us are, some of us do. But it's like in every profession, there are wonderful and not so wonderful human beings who do it. So that's kind of a cop-out answer. I'm sorry, I don't have anything good for that one.
All good, no worries. All right, thank you.
Okay.
What are some of the things that go into or with being a forensic CSI criminal investigator?
I don't know, not my field. I assume attention, I will guess, attention to detail, compassion, empathy. I assume there's science and math skills, and organization.
What is something about your job that would surprise people?
I don't know. I think it would I think it would surprise people if you ever heard some of the mundane things that we talk about. That's what I think would surprise a lot of people. A lot like for example, my wife is a clinical psychologist, and I've had students in the past say, "I bet you guys have the most amazing intellectual conversations ever." And I say, "No, it's mostly us arguing about directions and the best way to go places." So that would probably surprise you. Yeah.
What are some interesting things about your job?
Interesting things. Actually, I enjoy students. I enjoy meeting new people. I enjoy, like I said, I spend a lot of time. If you ever talk to me, you ever have me in class, you'll hear a lot about places like Diversion Hub. You'll hear me talk a lot about Homeless Alliance. I get to go and hang out in these places. I go and talk to people. I get to help these agencies out. I've been able to make talking about stats. I've been able to make assessment tools that are used by all the social service agencies in Oklahoma City. I think it's interesting that we get to, I think we get to talk to so many people who view us as experts, and we are to some degree. But I think that's kind of interesting, just kind of the cold calls we'll get. For example, people want to interview us. And I think it's kind of interesting just to talk to people and get to know people. And I find people fascinating. I've always found people fascinating. So I would just say just the wide range of human beings I get to meet, talk to, and interact with, and the credibility I get because I have PhD after my name. So
What's your greatest career accomplishment?
My greatest career accomplishment. I would say that I am going up. I'm about to be promoted to what's called a full professor. So that if that works out, that would be my greatest career accomplishment.
What are some common mistakes students make about your forensic science?
My forensics what?
What are some common mistakes students will make about forensic science?
No clue, buddy. Not my area.
What is the hardest part about forensic investigation?
I would again go back to death. I think it would be pretty terrible, having to see really anyone dead, but especially investigating horrible cases around children and things like that. Again, I'm completely projecting what I think. I do not know, but I would guess it would be like really horrible death scenes would be really difficult, I imagine.
Okay, that'll be it for our interview. Thank you so much for your time. And if you have any other questions, we will email them to you.
Sweet. Are all of y'all starting in the fall?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Well, good luck. If you need anything, feel free to holler at me. But otherwise, yeah, take care.
You.
Have a good rest of your summer. Good luck, guys.
Too.
Bye.
Bye.